What's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of Review for Goblin Slayer Season 2. This is episodes 7 and 8, and with me, as always, I have Blue Spade.
Yeah, so, um, of course, these last 2 episodes are, uh, I would say, like, they're definitely the finale arc of the whole, elf wedding,
Mm-hmm.
uh, the elf wedding arc, if you would really call it that. So, episode 7, starts off in which, they're trying to, stop, this giant creature called the One Who Stops Water, and they find out that there's a goblin riding on the creature, so they of course, the elf archer ends up killing the goblin, which allows, Goblin Slayer, the shaman, and the priest and to catch this creature. So this course gets into the next scene in which I think what was it the forest princess tries to convince the elf archer to stay a little bit more often to stay stay for the wedding, but of course she decides to help out Goblin Slayer locate what was it this goblin shaman that's leading all these goblins in the area.
Yeah. Yeah, so Goblin Slayer and his group basically uh, end up venturing up the river to try and end up finding the. Uh, what is it? Like some kind of a dam or something? Or. Yeah, like the
Yeah,
goblins, I guess,
it
had
I
taken refuge there. Um, and.
Yeah. At the same time, they find, like, a whole slew of, dead elves, that were tortured to
Yeah.
death and pretty much just, almost, like, impaled, simulate almost like a Vlad the Impaler
Mm,
style, deaths, literally all the way down the river, which, of course, slightly traumatizes Elf Archer and the other party members. Um, so they end up, what was it? Um they also find that the goblins have been poisoning the river with rotten flesh from their elf victims, which of course they plan to do that by poisoning the elves during, I guess during the wedding ceremony. So they end up eventually end up going into this fortress being run with just hundreds of thousands of I would say hundreds of goblins and eventually we see a conversation between Goblin Slayer and the Elf Archer. Pretty much we see several conversations between them, uh particularly Goblin Slayer admitting that his personal mission to go after the goblins pretty much prevents him from even having like a normal life or having fun with other people in general.
yeah. Um, yeah, I mean, uh, I think, yeah, like the Goblin Slayer talks to Elf Archer about that because, um, uh, I forget what the context of the conversation was. Like, she was, because like earlier she had a conversation with her sister about like her sister saying like pretty much trying to, I guess, discourage her from journeying with Goblin Slayer and his group. Like, she kind of wants her Elf Archer to I guess live in the village again or live to live with them.
Yeah, I mean, she gives like a similar answer to to what Goblin Slayer gives her by the end of the episode. I mean, it's possible, for her situation, she still has a life that she can pretty much go back to and literally just have a normal life of sorts.
Hmm.
Well, Goblin Slayer, who's completely different in general because he's mostly, he's suffering from PTSD from his childhood over losing his sister to goblins. So it's pretty much the reason why he's like this every single time.
Yeah, which explains why he's completely, I guess, obsessed with killing all the goblins. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, so yeah, in the next episode they end up well, they end up like taking this elevator up to where the goblin shaman is, or where the goblin shaman and the I guess the rest of the goblins are, which is on top of the, I guess, on top of the dam somewhere. Um,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah. And eventually they fight off against the horde of goblins with the door what was it? with the goblin shaman just pretty much leading all these goblins on top. And I think the priestess uses like some kind of purification ability to turn like the shaman's blood into water of sorts, leaving him unconscious. Honestly, I thought he would be dead at this point, but surprisingly, his
Well, with
you
the way
know
the
the
priestess reacted to it,
his
like I
blood.
thought that was what she was kind of like uh she was kind of upset about, like I thought she had assumed that she had killed the goblin, or she didn't want to kill anything, or I don't know, like because she's a healer, she's not really a
She, she, she feels like she's misusing her
yeah.
powers of sorts, which I don't know. I just find it a little bit weird the way she reacts that way. But her other party members like pretty much reassure her, um, that she's not doing anything bad with what she's doing in the whole
uh,
situation. Um, so eventually, like, they she what was it? She uses another ability which pretty much floods the entire castle. Eventually, just flooding the entire pretty much flooding the entire building with all the goblins inside, and just basically just causing them to fall off their deaths from the rooftop as well.
yeah, and well, yeah, they get out of there, of course, before they also get washed away by the current. Um, but yeah, that's how they pretty much get rid of all the goblins, is they just like flood, they use the water to just to wash them away. Uh,
Mhm.
but yeah, and then of course after that we cut to the Elf Archer sister's wedding, where they exchange vows with each other, um, and end up throwing the well, it was some sort of like a
Well, the
wreath,
bouquet
or
of
well,
sorts.
yeah, a bouquet, but it's like some kind of flower wreath into the crowd,
Yeah.
and we never really see like as we know with as tradition with weddings, like whoever like catches it is going to end up getting married, or something like that, but we never really see which one, because I mean they show all of the girls that are associated with Goblin Slayer, but we never get to see like who actually catches it. um
Yeah.
but yeah, and then and yeah, like I don't know. I don't really know why they wanted to leave that up to interpretation in particular. I guess that but yeah, I, and I think that's pretty much like is there something other yeah.
There was another thing that happens is there was a separate scene that takes
Oh
place
right, I
after the
completely
battle
forgot
in
about that.
which we
Yeah,
see.
so yeah, I don't know who the I don't know who these characters are. Like there are these characters we've never seen before. I mean, maybe we've heard about them before, but they're like fighting these I guess these demonic creatures somewhere, and I, I guess they're associated with the Sword Maiden. Um
Yeah, so they mentioned that that they're trying to close the gates of hell of sorts,
yeah.
and they realize that the death of the goblin shaman somewhere like where the goblin slayer and the others were ends up weakening the gate, so which will making it closing it much easier. Um So it's kind of weird that they transitioned to these different characters we never heard of much before. I think they may have been in season 1 or just made sporadic appearances here
Hmm.
and there, but it's kind of hard to tell because like we never get a lot of focus on the other characters outside of Goblin Slayer.
Yeah. Um, I mean, it could be because these characters are probably going to cross paths with Goblin Slayer eventually. I guess. Um, I guess
Yeah.
that might be why we're being shown those characters.
Yeah. And of course we do go back to Goblin Slayer. Um attending the wedding. But of course, he has another conversation with the elf archer, pretty much like admitting that pretty. I guess he's beating himself up over the fact that that his sister never got to get married. Um, over the fact that that she was killed by the goblins before this. Uh, so yeah, I don't know. It's another thing about goblins. It's another thing we keep seeing about Goblin Slayer, over the season about how emotional he's been getting about his past regrets. I'm guessing.
Yeah. Um, but yeah, I think that's pretty much where things end too. Like I,
Yeah.
I mean. I thought this was an okay story arc, I guess. I mean, it kind of helped to give more backstory to the Elf Archer and I guess somewhat develop her as a character, as well as kind of develop the priestess as a character too. So I mean, I guess it wasn't like I wouldn't say it was bad. I thought it was okay, but yeah, I not really. I guess my not my favorite part of the season so far. Um, I mean, I did kind of like when they introduced that one kid, but he kind of left. So now they're, it feels like this almost feels like kind of like a side quest in a video game, essentially. Like this is how this story arc felt like to me.
Yeah, like each of the story arcs have lasted 4 episodes each, as well as like what was it, the Wizard Boy story arc, which lasted 4 episodes. So yeah, also the whole Elf Archer storyline was also 4 episodes. So I'm guessing like next week is the start of like more than likely it's going to be the finale arc for this season.
Yeah. Um, I mean, I will say though, like, I haven't really had any complaints about I mean, the art style or the animation, considering it's leading films have taken over from White Fox. I mean, it does look very similar to season one. I mean, there's some differences, but I mean, at least they've kind of retained the look of Goblin Slayer, and it hasn't really changed too drastically or anything. Because I guess that's always one of the main concerns when a new studio takes over. Is that it would look completely different. But I mean, yeah, so far I feel like it's sort of it definitely it still feels like Goblin Slayer. Um, it's just like if I guess it's mostly just it's really like a sort of the pacing of season two that's been I guess kind of weird. Um, in comparison to season one. Um, but
Yeah, yeah, it feels the season in particular has felt. Well, I don't know. It feels a little bit slower in my
yeah,
opinion, um, and I don't know. It feels also less visceral than season one as well.
I mean,
I don't
there's
know,
been
like
some
because
moments
of the
where, like in I just in episode seven, where we saw the that one elf that was like impaled on the stake. And there's some other things too, but I mean, yeah, it did feel like season one had I guess more darker, had more consistent, I guess, dark moments in it. Um, but I mean, there's still that in season two for sure. Um, but I mean, yeah, I get what you mean by that. Um,
yeah. I mean, yeah. I feel like this arc that did have some good amount of character development for Alpha Archer in particular.
yeah.
But some moments that there were some fan servicey moments, including like the girls in the swimsuits and so
No,
on and
and,
so
and
forth.
then of course we
But yeah,
also
I
have all
thought.
the girls in different dresses in the during the wedding ceremony. Um,
Mhm.
but
Yeah.
yeah, I
Uh,
don't really have too much else to say about these two episodes, though. I don't know if you have anything else to say about it.
yeah. I mean, we'll have to see. What I guess you could say that next week is going to be the start of the finale arc. So I mean, we'll have to see I don't know what that is going to be focused
Yeah,
on.
yeah, guys. But that all being said, until next time, we will see you all later.